So what motivated you to write this book, especially the gap between your first book, which was written 8 years back on Ramana Maharshi's Moksha, and this book which you have currently published? What motivated you? Because if it took 8 years, there should have been a very compelling reason.
Yes, it's true that there is a gap of 8 years, and I'm not particularly interested in publishing a series of books or anything like that. That is not even a wish with me. But I was working in the field of Vedic astrology, and the fruit of that work is Sri Ramana Maharshi's Moksha. And then it so happened that my life went into another domain, which is the domain of moksha per se, not with Jyotish, not connected to Jyotish, but from the spiritual spheres of dharma and moksha. And that happened as a very natural thing, almost as an evolutionary development. And I would say that just as we breathe, just as the body breathes and the heart beats and the sun rises in the morning and sets in the evening, in the same way I wrote this book. So it's something extremely natural. It was unpremeditated and without a single design. It's when I was very young, I'm going back now to 1970. J. Krishnamurti was invited to the IIT Madras, and he spoke in the open air auditorium, and somebody asked the impertinent question to him, "Why do you speak?" And then Krishnamurti was so spontaneous. Krishnamurti said, "Just as you would not ask a flower why it blooms, don't ask the speaker why he speaks."
Beautiful.
Now, I'm on that wavelength.
Moving on, because you've written the book. So, according to you, in the current generation of people, what do you think is their greatest challenge or impediment in the way we live our life? And does this book actually answer that particular, pertinent question people have? Because everybody seems to be very busy, running around, not having time for their families, very, very busy, right? So, how does this book actually address this generation of people?
I see that you've asked me a question which is socially very relevant, and the malaise in society actually comes from the fact that our civilization and our culture at this point does not have the spiritual foundation it had, say 1,000 years, 2,000 years, 5,000 years ago. 5,000 years ago, children went to the ashram of a guru and guru patni and were there at their feet for 14 long years, and that helped them to absorb the spiritual values and spiritual outlook on life, and that was a kind of preparation for meeting life head on after 21 or 25. Now we lost this foundation. So as we walk the terrain of adult life from 21 onwards, we may not be aware, but we're actually ill-equipped to take that journey because we don't have a moral basis and we don't have spiritual values and spiritual perception. So sooner or later, we're going to bang our heads on a wall, and suffering is going to come upon us. And when suffering comes upon us, the whole of mankind thinks that this is a curse on us, and they don't want that suffering. But actually, if we begin to contemplate on it, we will know that the suffering is divinely intended. Like the divine created the galaxies and created this marvelous body, which is enormously biologically sophisticated, the divine created sorrow. And the sorrow is necessary for man to go back home. So once you get the sorrow, you'll start questioning, you'll start thinking. Then you become a seeker. The seeker in you is born. And then such seekers will search for solutions. And this work, Self-Realization Through Self-Knowing, published by Yogi Impressions, is intended for such serious seekers that they do not keep aside their seeking and pamper their own worldliness, but they keep aside their worldliness in order to go whole hog in seeking. The book is intended for them.